Hi, it's Nico from TideOps. And if you're watching this, then you probably are a subscriber to the AI Solutions Lab, and you may have read this article where I'm describing how I assemble a virtual product team and solve a problem or make some progress on my project. So I promised that I would do like a video walkthrough and show some of the prompts and the interactions, because it was a little bit way too clunky to put all of that into the article. So let me show you how I did that. So I have a Claude project, and it doesn't have to be in Claude. Of course, you can replicate this very similarly with ChatGPT. I'm just currently preferring interacting with Claude here. And the main thing here is that I have a couple of files in this context window or in this project that I can point the team to. So in my initial prompt, I simply started by saying, I was wondering if you could take on multiple roles and simulate a team conversation with me. The purpose is to have a constructive exchange of ideas, and I would like the team to consist of someone responsible for product development, marketing, finance, and budget. And I'm also open to suggestions. I think that's a good thing to take away. Is always like, what do I know? I'm starting with 3. What do you think might I be missing? And I immediately get this input. We should add a customer experience manager. Now, I wouldn't have thought of that, but okay. So, and what did this person do, or this role do during the team meeting? This virtual person, well, they basically, whenever something was discussed, they said, this is probably going to be like this this could be frustrating for the user, or this could be, people could get motivated by the gamification or something like that. So that was their perspective. And that's the entire thing, right? There's no director, no CFO, but there are different perspectives. Whenever something is being discussed, the CFO is going to basically wear the hat of like, okay, what does that do to the budget, to the pricing? How are we going to make money with this, right? Which, for example, is something that might not be top of mind for me. I might be very interested in, but we need to include this. And it's good to have somebody remind you of that. Somebody, right? Okay, cool. Then I introduced myself and I said, our mission is to make progress. So this is now where I'm getting into the meeting, to make progress on what is outlined in the AI coaching business overview and strategy. So I had already a file where I had recorded or documented the current sort of like lineup of products, what I think my target audience is, and so on, or our target audience is, and so on and so forth. And again, I'm asking basically for their insights. And now they're going through this, and everybody introduces themselves, and then Alex, the product development lead, says they reviewed the product lineup, and we should start with focusing on our Launchpad free module as a lead magnet. And that was more or less agreed upon by the rest of the team. Ultimately, of course, I'm making the decisions. But and the CFO said, okay, but we gotta focus about the money too, right? We gotta talk about pricing. That's great. All right. So I added more context. I gave them like an outline of what I'm imagining this Launchpad free module to be. And then we started working on that. And you can see as I'm browsing through this, to differentiate, we could focus on this. How do we do something that's not the same as any and all of the free ChatGPT courses that are already out there? What's our spin? And I actually think I have a couple of things that I want to do that are not covered in all of these. So I'm trying to work that with the team. And I think at this point, I'm also bringing in how can we differentiate? I asked that, and I said here simply, this is how easy it goes. Let me also reach out to Kramer, our most creative out-of-the-box thinker here, loop him in. And all of a sudden, Kramer, the creative thinker, appears and basically puts input to the discussion. Now that's cool. A little bit later, they started working with me on the outline. Here they start suggesting an outline. I gave them a time limit. I said the entire thing can't take the user more than 60 minutes. It's sort of like the value proposition. Get started with Launchpad in less than an hour. And they slightly went over 1 hour, but it's still helpful to see how they were sort of like sketching out the different sections of the module to be. And I don't think they did a really good a really good job with sort of like the wording. So at some point I told them I'm going to bring in a copywriter. So we're adding more people to the team. And I realized after a while that there's more and more people, and every time we discuss something, just as a practical experience, this is the first time I did this in this format, right? That every time we talked about something, every role sort of like felt, I guess, compelled to add something from their perspective. There's always this, you can see this like Alex, Morgan, Sam, Kramer, Charlie, right? And then there's some more output. And then again, Alex, Morgan, Sam. So I was like, okay, this is getting a little bit out of hand. I added Susan, the copywriter. I also sometimes record longer, like dictate longer parts where I'm just want to talk a little bit and go through what the output was and give them feedback. And then I realized at one point I need to bring in, or I need to try and bring in an additional, like a moderator or assistant. And I was at this point experimenting with, I was basically saying the assistant has to moderate the conversation and has to ask the people that have, or the roles that have, sorry for saying people, the roles that have something relevant to say to what we're currently discussing about their input, right? That was a little bit what I was imagining, at least. And I added a couple of like frameworks. I asked them whether they know the Disney creativity strategy and a couple of other things. So we did that, and then at one point, it got to, you can see the replies from the AI are getting quite long. I always have to read all of that, so sort of like make sense of it. Okay, but this was where we added the copywriter. That helped, so that made the copy better. And then I brought in the coordinator and assistant to the team meetings. And then I realized I gotta stop, right? We gotta take a time out. This is getting really long. At some point, you're also gonna run into these like usage limits with Claude. And when the chats are getting very long, they also oftentimes contextually fall apart a little bit. Like the team forgets certain things that we may have discussed in the beginning of the meeting. And honestly, also my own mental capacity, I think after this probably took like an hour or longer, I even changed location during this. So I was like, this is good. Now, I want to have a comprehensive protocol and summary of the discussion and the results. And I made it so that I said, please include any relevant details instead of heavily compressing it all down into a few bullet points. Because sometimes, in my experience, these tools oversimplify or over-summarize. And I wanted to have like a real comprehensive protocol of the meeting, so that for the next meeting, I would just take that and say, we can now continue our discussion, and today's focus will be on whatever, right? Whatever I have achieved working on in the meantime. And that worked. It actually worked quite well. So I took that file basically as the end result of this type of work, put it back into my project, and started the next team meeting based on that file. That worked pretty well. What I also did then, this is the last little bit, is I was preparing a presentation for a couple of executives, for a group of executives, and I wanted to demonstrate this product team idea, and so I asked the team, if I have the chance, what would be a couple of good questions that I could ask the executives. And I said, all ideas are welcome, and then I want you to triage and rank them and give me the top 3. Right? I mean, and I think they picked the right ones, or I think the assistant picked the right ones. But first, again, everybody, or each role, added 3 questions. Now you can probably specify that and say, give me 10. That it's an LLM, it's going to generate 10. But I think 3 is pretty okay. And of course, they were building a little bit on what I also had in terms of like research on the audience and so on. But They were doing all of these, then they triaged and ranked them, and they gave me the top 3 questions. And those top 3, I said, please put into a little artifact. Oh, can I not click here? Here. Yeah. And so they came up with this and basically said, here's your note, like take this to the presentation. If you get a chance, ask the executives, and then you can report back to the team, which I did. So that should about cover it. If you have any questions, if you want to know any more nitty-gritty details, just send me a message. Thanks.